The story begins with the pop of a champagne cork, a sound of celebration that is immediately swallowed by a terrifying explosion. We are in the lush, quiet English countryside, at the home of Iris and Gabriel Pelly. It was supposed to be a moment of peace after a summer from hell, but as black smoke billows into the sky from a neighbor's property, it becomes clear that for Iris and Gabriel, the nightmare isn't over. It's just changing shape. To understand this moment, we have to go back 4 months. Gabriel, a beloved local doctor, was broken. While out for a run one morning, he had discovered a young man named Charlie Ingram dying at the bottom of an old limestone quarry. Gabriel stayed with him until the end, and he told everyone that Charlie's last words were a message of love for his mother. But the trauma of that morning, combined with the death of his own father, left Gabriel a shell of a man. He took a leave of absence, and Iris, his devoted wife, took him on a holiday to Scotland to heal. But when they returned home early, seeking the comfort of their own bed, they found a stranger in their house. It wasn't a total stranger, but it was a shock. It was Laure, Iris's best friend from Paris. She was waiting at the top of the stairs, disheveled and weeping. Laure's perfect life had imploded. Her husband, Pierre, Gabriel's best friend, had confessed to having a secret child from an affair years ago. Devastated and betrayed, Laure had fled Paris and let herself into Iris and Gabriel's home. And just like that, the sanctuary Iris and Gabriel needed was gone. Laure didn't just stay for a weekend. She moved in. She took over the kitchen. She wept on the sofa. And she filled every silence with talk of Pierre's betrayal. For Gabriel, who was trying to recover from burnout, and for Iris, who was trying to hold her husband together, Laure became an exhausting, suffocating presence. While Gabriel sought refuge in restoring an old, overgrown walled garden on their property, Iris tried to be a good friend. But the tension in the house was palpable. And then, new neighbors arrived. Hugh and his much younger pregnant wife, Esme. They brought with them a gardener named Joseph, a handsome but troubled young man with a history of alcoholism. As the summer heat intensified, the lives of these people began to tangle in dangerous ways. Laure, desperate for distraction and validation, began a flirtation with Joseph, the gardener. Gabriel, haunted by the secret of Charlie Ingram's actual last words, grew more distant, and Iris watched it all, her patience wearing thin, her own secrets buried deep beneath her composed exterior. The turning point came when Pierre finally reached out. He wanted to see Laure. He wanted to explain. Laure, feeling a surge of hope and defiance, agreed to meet him at their apartment in Paris. Iris drove her to the station, relieved that perhaps, finally, they would get their house back. But later that day, a frantic call came from Laure. She was at the train station in Paris, sobbing. Pierre hadn't shown up. He had ghosted her. Heartbroken and humiliated, Laure returned to England, declaring her marriage over. She threw herself deeper into her reckless relationship with Joseph, the gardener. Then, the police knocked on the door. The French authorities had found Pierre. He wasn't missing, and he hadn't ghosted Laure. He was dead. His body had been found stuffed into a chest freezer in the basement of his own apartment building. He had been stabbed to death. The shock was absolute. But as the investigation unfolded, the timeline revealed a horrifying truth. Pierre had been killed on the very day Laure went to Paris. The police found evidence that Laure had been in the apartment. Her alibi fell apart. The grieving widow became the prime suspect. The pressure in the house became unbearable. Laure was trapped, facing extradition and a murder charge. She spiraled, drinking heavily and arguing with Joseph. And then, one stormy afternoon, Laure went for a run and never came back. A frantic search ensued. Gabriel and Iris scoured the fields and woods, battling the wind and rain. The next morning, they found her. Laure lay broken at the bottom of the quarry, in the same spot where Charlie Ingram had died months before. It looked like a tragic accident, or perhaps suicide born of guilt. The police concluded that Laure, knowing she would be convicted of murdering her husband, had taken her own life. With Laure gone, a heavy silence fell over the house. It seemed the tragedy was finally over. Gabriel and Iris could try to rebuild their lives. Their daughter, Beth, returned home from her gap year abroad to support them. But the darkness hadn't lifted. It had just shifted its focus. Gabriel, seeking closure, finally decided to meet with Maggie, the mother of the boy who died in the quarry. He needed to unburden himself. He confessed to Iris that he had lied about Charlie's last words. Charlie hadn't said, "Tell Mom I love her." He had said, "I'll never forgive her." He had died angry because someone had told him a devastating secret about his mother. That someone was Joseph. It turned out Joseph had worked at Charlie's school and had been fired because of Maggie. In revenge, he had drunkenly taunted Charlie, driving the boy to his death. Gabriel, furious, confronted Joseph. He told him that Charlie's death was his fault. Joseph began to crumble under the guilt. He started drinking again. And then, on the day of Esme and Hugh's baby christening, a massive explosion rocked the village. Joseph's cottage had blown up. A gas leak ignited by a spark. A tragic accident of a drunk man. 3 deaths: Pierre, Laure, and Joseph, all gone in the span of a single summer. To the outside world, Iris Pelly is a grieving friend and a supportive wife who has endured unimaginable tragedy. But as the smoke clears and silence returns to the house, we finally step into Iris's mind, and the terrifying reality is revealed. Iris isn't a victim. She is the architect of it all. 20 years ago, on a beach in the Bahamas, Iris and Pierre had a single secret night of passion. The result was her daughter, Beth. Gabriel never knew. He raised Beth as his own, loving her more than life itself. Iris had kept this secret for 2 decades to protect her marriage and her daughter. But when Pierre confessed he had a secret child and started doing DNA tests, Iris knew her world was about to end. She knew Pierre would eventually figure out that Beth was his daughter. He was going to tell the truth. He was going to destroy everything. So Iris went to Paris that day. She met Pierre for lunch. She went back to the apartment with him. And in the cold quiet of the basement storeroom, she stabbed him to death and hid his body in the freezer. She planted evidence to frame Laure, the perfect scapegoat. But Laure had been a problem too. On a walk near the quarry, Laure had confided in Iris. She had started to put the pieces together. She had noticed the resemblance between Beth and Pierre. She asked Iris, "Is Pierre Beth's father?" In that moment, standing on the edge of the cliff, Iris didn't hesitate. She pushed her best friend to her death. And Joseph? Joseph was the final threat. He had started a relationship with Beth. He was planning to travel to Thailand with her. Iris couldn't risk this unstable man, who knew too many secrets, being near her daughter. So, she drugged Beth with laxatives to keep her home from the christening. She got Joseph drunk. She turned on the gas in his cottage. She left a candle burning. Iris stands in her bathroom, smoothing down her dress, preparing dinner for her husband and daughter. She looks in the mirror. The woman staring back isn't the anxious, people-pleasing home enhancer everyone thinks they know. She feels a new serenity. She has removed every threat to her family. She has killed her best friend, her lover, and a young man, all to keep her secret buried. She hears Gabriel and Beth coming home, the 2 people she loves most in the world. She smiles. She knows exactly who she is now. She is Iris Pelly, wife, mother, murderer,